The first thing my alien wife said to me after our wedding ceremony was, "Are you absolutely certain this won't kill me?" Which wasn't exactly the reaction I had imagined. The ceremony itself had already been complicated enough. It took place aboard a neutral orbital station, suspended between two very different worlds, Earth and Virex Prime. The station was built specifically for diplomatic agreements, trade negotiations, and, in rare cases, interspecies unions like ours. Everything about the place screamed compromise. Half the corridors were designed for human gravity and atmosphere. The other half shimmered with bioadaptive materials that adjusted to the needs of the Virexians, my wife's people. And right in the center of it all was us. Her name was Sarah, Commander Sarah of the Virexian Royal Guard. Tall, poised, and terrifyingly composed in almost every situation. Except this one. "You're shaking," I said quietly. "I am not shaking," she replied instantly. "You're definitely shaking. That is a controlled muscular response," she corrected, her voice tight. "Entirely intentional." "Sure it is." She shot me a look, sharp, violet eyes narrowing slightly. "You are enjoying this." "A little." Sarah wasn't like any human I'd ever met. For one thing, she wasn't human. Her skin had a soft, iridescent sheen, shifting subtly between silver and pale lavender depending on the light. Her hair, if you could call it that, fell in thin, flexible strands that moved almost like they were alive, adjusting to her emotions in ways she insisted were purely biological and not expressive. They were expressive. Very. Right now, they were stiff. Anxious. "This is a mistake," she murmured. I leaned closer. "Which part?" "All of it." "That's reassuring." She exhaled slowly, steadying herself. "I have faced warships," she said. "I have commanded soldiers in active combat zones. I have stood before the High Council without hesitation. And none of those situations required me to participate in this." I smiled. "It's just a human wedding tradition." That is precisely what concerns me. To be fair, I couldn't entirely blame her. Human weddings were strange, even to humans. But to Sarah, they were practically alien rituals. The agreement between our worlds had been simple on paper. A symbolic union. A gesture of trust. A bridge between species. What they didn't include in the official documents were the details. "Remind me again," she said carefully, "why we must exchange these rings?" I held mine up between my fingers. "Symbolism." "Of what?" "Commitment." She frowned slightly. "You require physical objects to represent that. Humans like reminders." She considered that. "That suggests a lack of confidence. Or just sentiment." She didn't look convinced. "And this part," she continued, her voice lowering slightly. "The verbal declaration. The vows." "Yes." "You are expected to speak in front of everyone." "Yep." "And express personal emotion?" "That's usually how it goes." She stared at me. Publicly. Publicly. Her posture stiffened. "That is deeply uncomfortable." I chuckled. "You'll survive." She leaned closer. "That remains to be seen." The ceremony began moments later. Representatives from both species filled the observation chamber. Humans in formal attire. Virexians standing tall and still, their presence radiating quiet intensity. At the center of it all, Sarah and I stepped forward. The officiant, a neutral AI construct designed to handle cross-species protocols, began the process. "Today," it said in a calm, synthesized voice, "we witness the union of two individuals from distinct civilizations. This bond represents not only personal commitment, but the potential for shared understanding." Sarah leaned slightly toward me. "It speaks too much. That's kind of its job." The vows came first. I went before she could overthink it. I didn't expect this, I admitted, glancing at her. Not any of it. Not meeting you. Not this. Her gaze stayed fixed on me, unblinking. But here we are, I continued. And even though we don't understand everything about each other, I think that's kind of the point. A faint shift in her expression. Curiosity. I promise to try, I said simply. To learn. To respect your world, your people, and you. I hesitated, then added. And to explain human traditions before they scare you. A few quiet laughs echoed through the chamber. Even Sarah's lips twitched slightly. Then it was her turn. She stood still for a long moment. Long enough that I wondered if she'd say anything at all. Then, I do not fully understand this process, she said. A few murmurs rippled through the audience. She ignored them. In my culture, she continued, bonding is not expressed through words. It is demonstrated through action, through loyalty, through survival. Her gaze shifted to me. You are unpredictable, illogical, frequently confusing. I smiled. Accurate. But, she said, her voice softening just slightly, you are also consistent. You protect without expectation. You speak without deception. A pause. Then, I will attempt to understand you. Another pause. And I will not abandon this bond. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't traditional. But it was Sarah. And somehow, it meant more. The rings came next. She examined hers like it might activate some hidden mechanism. It is inert, she confirmed. Very. When I slid it onto her finger, she flinched slightly. Not from fear. From unfamiliarity. Then it was her turn. Her movements were precise. Careful. Like she was handling something fragile. The AI paused. Then spoke. Finalizing union protocol. A traditional human gesture is recommended to complete the ceremony. Sarah froze. What gesture? I winced slightly. The AI continued. A physical expression of affection is customary. A kiss is suggested. Sarah turned to me slowly. A what? And that's when she said it. Hold on, that goes inside me. The room went completely silent. I blinked. Then immediately shook my head. No, that's not. She stepped back slightly, her entire posture shifting into defensive alert. You did not specify this requirement, she said sharply. It's not like that. I insisted. It's just lips. Just lips. That is still an entry point. It's not an invasion. The humans in the audience were trying and failing not to laugh. The Virexians looked deeply concerned. Sarah's gaze flicked between me and the observing crowd. You expect me to allow physical contact of that nature in public? When you say it like that, it sounds way worse than it is. She hesitated. Processing. Calculating. Demonstrate, she said. What? Demonstrate, she repeated. So, I may assess the risk. I rubbed my face. Okay, fine. I stepped closer. Slowly. Carefully. It's just this, I said, leaning in slightly and pressing my lips gently against the back of my hand. See? No danger. No entry. She watched closely, analyzing every movement. That appears harmless, she admitted. Told you. Another pause. Then, very well. She stepped forward, close enough that I could see the faint shifts of color in her skin. Nervous. Still unsure. Do not make this strange, she warned. I won't. And then, she leaned in. Awkwardly. Carefully. Our lips touched. Brief. Soft. Uncertain. And for a moment, everything else disappeared. When she pulled back, her eyes widened slightly. That was not unpleasant. I grinned. High praise. The AI chimed in. Union complete. The room erupted into applause. But for us, that was just the beginning. Because marriage wasn't the hard part. Understanding each other? That was where the real challenge began. Living together on the ragged star was an adjustment for both of us. Sierra approached everything like a tactical situation. Sleeping arrangements? Analyzed. Food? Inspected. Human habits? Questioned relentlessly. Why do you consume substances that have no nutritional value? She asked one evening, holding up a packet of chips. Because they taste good. That is not a valid survival strategy. It's a happiness strategy. She didn't understand that. Not at first. But slowly, things began to change. She started asking fewer questions and observing more. One day, I found her sitting quietly in the common area, watching an old human film. You like it? I asked. It is inefficient, she said. Sounds about right, but engaging. Another step. Weeks passed, then months. The differences between us didn't disappear, but they stopped feeling like barriers. They became bridges. Until the day everything was tested. We received a transmission. Phyrexian command. Commander Sarah, the voice said. You are required to return immediately. Hostilities have escalated. Sarah stood still, silent. You are needed, the voice continued. Your bond with the human does not supersede your duty. The connection cut. I looked at her. You're going to go. It wasn't a question. Yes, she said. A pause. Heavy. And what happens to us? I asked. She stepped closer, her expression unreadable. In my culture, she said, bonds are tested through separation. I swallowed. Yeah? And if they fail? She reached out, her hand resting lightly against mine. They do not fail, she said. A beat. Not if they are real. She left the next day, and for the first time since I met her, the ship felt empty. But she came back. Not immediately, not easily, but she came back. And when she did, she didn't hesitate. She walked straight up to me, paused, and then, without overthinking it, without asking, she kissed me, perfectly, confidently. No fear, no confusion, just understanding. And in that moment, I realized something. We were still different. We always would be. But that didn't matter. Because somewhere between confusion and curiosity, between fear and trust, we had learned how to meet in the middle. And that was enough.